Hello, fellow travelers. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey. And today we're going to look at the last moment of this week's transit. We're in the 6th line of the 17th gate, where the Earth is in the 18th gate, and any moment we're going to move into the 21st and the 48th gate. So let's use the left time to look at what has been going on the past week. So sometimes those transits are also interesting to look at in retrospective to see actually what has happened. So the gate of opinions. It was actually a week with a lot of reflections. And actually the past few days, it was reflector days. Those were reflector days. So a lot of reflectors were born. And actually, just that I say that, I heard about the new baby being born. So it must be a reflector. Okay. So on last Friday, yeah, the energy to sustain a broad spectrum of stimuli and the possibility of having many opinions, the openness, the first line, the introspection, a tendency to limit openness to aesthetically pleasing stimuli, the possibility to limit opinions to what is pleasing. So this was going on. And then the second line, the benefit of association based on the highest values, the successful achievement of purpose through proper alignment, the possibility to develop opinions through relationships, an overactive discrimination that leaves one virtually alone, the possibility of being opinionated at the expense of relationships. So first being open, then we get into the more selective second line, discrimination. So it's very interesting, the gate of opinions, actually. So it's part of the design of an organizational being. So those people, they have the opinions and they actually need to have their opinion, which will mean they will have their understanding. They have been able to put that understanding and organize in their own world the outside that they meet, and only then they can make sense out of it. It's a logical channel, so the 17th gate is a logical gate, and the past week was very opinionated week. Then in the third line we had understanding. The awareness that the best road is not necessarily the most interesting on Sunday. The following of the best road provides the experience necessary to meet the challenges of the road's end. The understanding that the best opinions are grounded in detail. The taking of shortcuts. One may get to the end quicker, but the essential experience will be missing. The possibility of skipping details and limiting the value of the opinion. Trial and error process. To understand is to test the shortcut or to challenge the road's end and actually getting into detail and not skipping steps. So the 17th gate is also a gate of the eyes. It's visual. It's about really getting to understand. So here we have understanding. It's also part of the understanding stream. And if they have been able to to visualize of what pattern is correct or not, then when the 60-second gate comes, and it's actually as from when the moon is now here, so from several hours, 4 hours about, in the gate of detail, then manifestation is verbal expression of pattern or not. So the 17th gate is about visualizing patterns and understanding in a logical way so as to be able to predict the future. That's what has been going on the past week. Then we get to the personal manager, already get to the second floor of the house, to the transpersonal line, although it's still right profile if we have the fourth line in our Sun Earth. So the ability to probe and discover the understanding, motivation, and resources of those who wish to follow. The possibility of opinions based on the understanding of others, or the other side, the over-generous and often misguided acceptance of would-be followers, often with disastrous results. The possibility of opinions attracting others. With the fourth line, the personal manager, the friendship line, who is very influential to the people they know, to their friends and relatives, and their opinions can be very attractive. Hence, you have been invited to give your opinion because it's a projector channel. And let's not forget, we're talking about the transit field, so it's not something you have to really be impacted by. You will be influenced by it, and it's an outside energy, but you have your strategy and authority to keep yourself grounded, centered, and not having to be influenced by the weather. But this is the weather, so it's there, all right, and you can see it in the news, you can see it all around you, you can see people being very opinionated the past week. Is that so? Was that like that? The fifth line yesterday, no human is an island. The recognition, however understood, that there is no end to hierarchies. The ultimate creative expression of interdependency, whether as God's will or global synthesis. Opinions that can express the value of being organized, whether mundane or spiritual. And only then they can understand you, when they can organize you. That this doesn't mean they can organize themselves. The arrogance, despite all the evidence to claim that the buck stops here. The possibility of opinions that refuse to see the value of being organized. So it can be both, being organized, and this is Martian energy, so it's explosive, and immature energy, and the other side being able to express how it is to be organized, and this can be quite unusual. Today, we are in the sixth line, the Bodhisattva. So, the enlightened one. The Bodhisattvas are enlightened beings who have put off entering paradise in order to help others attain enlightenment. There are many different bodhisattvas, but the most famous in China is the Avalokitesvara, known as Chinese as Guanyin. And the bodhisattvas are usually depicted as less austere or inward than the Buddha. So we don't have the Buddha of the 52nd gate, but we have standing still mountain. No, we have here the Bodhisattva, the enlightened one. The perfect following, one with and the same as perfect leading. Knowing that in order to lead, you first need to be a follower. And here we have The great nurturer, nature of disposition is always positive. The possibility in understanding the nature of interdependency to express opinions of value to others. We have only the exaltation, so it's focused from the moon. The great nurturer. So maybe it's the perfect enlightened moment that actually I'm doing this transit forecast. So it's actually not a forecast, but backcast. Okay, let's get to the 18th gate. This is where we have been grounded during the past few days. First, we were in the line of conservatism, the adherence to traditional patterns despite and or in spite of changing circumstances. So the 18th gate is in the spleen center. It's the work on what has been spoiled, the gate of correction, the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic and fundamental human rights. It's about taste and about correcting bigger things. So bigger things, I mean, not the wrinkles on the tablecloth, but bigger in social aspect here to be shared with others. So first line, conservatism, the adherence to traditional patterns despite and or in spite of changing circumstances. Gradual modification to avoid eventual upheaval. The potential to correct through gradual modification of judgments. And it's part of the channel of judgment. Second line, terminal disease. I love this one. It has such a melancholic and disastrous name, terminal disease. But actually, it's the recognition that what has been spoiled is irreversible. Acceptance and strength derived from a faith in spiritual regeneration. On one hand, the acceptance that there is no potential for correction, or the futile raging against the wind, the refusal to accept that there is no potential to correction. This is on last Saturday till Sunday, was this energy accepting or raging against what is, what cannot be corrected, accepting this limitation. Then we have the third line, we had the zealot, the energetic obsession to clean the house with trial and error process, the dissolution of old forms at an acceptable price, an obsession with correction in its critical potential, or the rigid judgmentation that creates as many problems as it solves, an obsession with correction that does not bring satisfaction. And being very pessimistic that nothing works. The third line here. So this pointed at yourself as a grounded energy that's like can be disastrous, to be obsessed with correction and not getting satisfaction out of anything because nothing's perfect. My darlings, the life is not perfect, and it is as perfect as it is. By saying it's not perfect, I mean it's perfect, but it's not positively perfect. It has the positive and the negative, and both of them make it perfect. Then we have the fourth line, the incompetent. Difficulties as a result of inadequacies that cannot be resolved because of inadequacies. Given this negative position, survival through suffering, the inability to correct and its potential for suffering. And trying to influence others with this opinion that the inability to correct this potential for suffering, and you have to correct at all prices and let's correct it and be super fixed about it, and also contage everybody else with this, and or well, maybe that's not the right word, contagious, but to try to influence and fix people. Actually, there are a lot of fourth lines right now. So there is a lot of fixedness in the air, and third and sixth line. So, ooh, that's interesting. A lot of trial and error and fixedness, fixed opinions, being influential towards our network. Yeah, being competent. And then yesterday we had therapy, the strength to recognize a problem and to accept that it is beyond one's power to solve it alone, the wisdom to both seek and provide guidance, the potential for correction and judgment through relationships. And the other side, the mental patient, chronic instability and potential madness, where relationships cannot assist in correction, the potential of mental instability. So having the strength to recognize a problem and to accept that it's beyond your power to deal with it alone. You need relationships to deal with that, to seek and provide guidance, or not being able and chronically feeling stable, even close to madness, because relationships cannot assist you and you have to deal alone. The fifth line, it's being projected upon. It's is the dream of the hexagram, that at the end those opinions will be influential, will make a deep social impact and change, and recognize those problems that those opinions express, and although they cannot really be solved alone, it's something that as society we can deal with. To only come to the today's day, the sixth line, the Buddhahood. So we have the Bodhisattva and the Buddhahood, the perfected form, the Buddha state of the eternal child, and the energy to find new horizons to avoid stasis, the potential of the perfected form through correction. And the other side, the mundane application of the above, the ability to tap public opinion and share methodology, the potential to share the values of the correction with others. So here we are beyond social impact and social change. Here we're talking about the whole world, about the whole Buddhahood state of the eternal child, and possibility to find new horizons and avoid the stasis, avoid the immovable, the stagnation, and to be able to transcend in a way, and the opinions to be enlightened in a way, in the perfected form way. Here we're talking about the soulmate or not, the perspective of the sixth line being the role model, the administrator, the optimist, the objective one. So today maybe is the biggest chance for objective opinions after we went through the whole week of opinions and corrections and trying to get enlightened and to actually really find out what the future is going to hold for us. Today is the enlightenment day in a way. That's only a possibility. It's only a potential. And there might be nothing for us at this moment. Be aware, especially if you have an open throat and an open ajna, as to today you will be under extra um, um, pressure to express untold opinions, to talk too much, and to be trying to be certain about what you think, trying to prove your point, and not really be open to the miracle of different perspectives, but be closed and opinionated, and um, basically making um, arguments only for the sake of arguing and expressing opinions and getting into maybe too much detail. We have the preponderance of the small, the gate of details activated by the moon transit, which is the driving force, the mind focus. So it's in the fourth line, asceticism, the perfected ascetic withdrawal in the pursuit of harmony and simplicity where outside dangers do not exist. And there is time to pursue inner meaning in detail that can only be expressed after periods of isolation and reflection. The urge to take action, that's the other side against established values, that when restrained by circumstances leads to withdrawal that waits for opportunity, where the detail is organized isolation as a strategy waiting for the right opportunity for expression at this very moment. So it's actually asceticism on the details and waiting for the opportunity, trying to be influential and very fixed in those opinions. And we have the entire channel of the acceptance design of organizational being. So here we have an organization which is an ongoing internal process and being very busy to organize the mental state. So you will really be under the potential to look at the bigger picture and to try to fit it all in the big pattern. And the 1762 keeps a constant vigil on their internal pattern, and all new data has been logically integrated into that picture. And when the understanding comes, and then they have been able to organize successfully that understanding into the internal picture, and then if it fits, then it's understood. What cannot be organized cannot be understood. So today people will be able to understand you or not, and not being able to understand you. And when they don't understand you, then they have not been able to organize in their internal world, in their perception of their own picture of the world, how it's comfortable for them to be or not. And then they will feel uncomfortable if they are not able to explain themselves. So it's about sharing the entire process with whoever is available. And don't forget that's a projector channel. So you have to be invited to share your opinions and trying to organize others so as to accept their place in the whole picture. But today people might be sharing their opinions in great detail as what they do or don't understand about at all, and trying to organize their own space in the world, and they'll try to organize you as well, no matter whether they have been invited or not. So a lot of opinions are flying in the air. Can you take them? Then we have the moon nodes. We have the 28, the preponderance of the great, the gate of the gameplay. In the third line, adventurism, unfounded risk-taking in giving your opinions and trying to organize everything in the internal world. A basic conservatism that even in adventurous acts is necessary prudent, an intuitive caution in risk-taking in times of struggle, or a perverse manifestation of expansiveness where risk-taking is rationalized and failure is ensured. Intuitive rationalizing of risk-taking in times of struggle. And the other side, the future direction environment, nourishment, the gate of caring, the third line, greed, the obsession with having much more than one needs, so much more opinions and corrections, total obsession and insatiability with having more and giving more opinions and having more understanding, organizing better, cleaning the house, and being obsessive about it. So here, the psychological manifestation, the obsession and dependency of knowing what is hidden, the secret policeman, the power derived in having more than one needs, whether sexually, mentally, or materially. Be aware, folks. Mundane and wholly without redeeming value, greed, a lust that inevitably cripples and addicts, the lust for power to get more than one needs. So power trips going on here. That's in the background frequency. Then we have the closure, the gate of growth, increase, also the gate of ending things, and it's in Mercury, the communication and thinking, what translates the sun to us. It's in the second line, identification. On one side, recognition and acute capitalization of trends, power for growth through participating in trends, and the detriment and aesthetically motivated withdrawal in times of progressive change, growth which stops in reaction to trends or change. People will be communicating about trends, about how to grow using those trends, or stop your growth because of those trends. That will be what people will be talking about. We still have the second gate, actually not still because it's here, but in it has been for quite some time activated by Uranus. Now in the fourth line, the receptive, the gate of direction of the self. Fourth line, so excuse me, secretiveness, more than modesty, the ability to preserve harmony through discretion. The higher goal transcends personal acclaim. The team player, acknowledged as the leader but never the captain, where higher knowing does not have to be expressed to be recognized. So it's unusualness, chaos, and innovation, but at the same time, it's also the values and relating, because it's activated also by Venus, and secretiveness, preserving the harmony through discretion, and when the opportunity arises, knowing the higher goal that transcends the personal acclaim, and being a team player in the line of friendship. That's how the higher purpose unfolds, and the direction of the self and where to go, in case it is your direction to take at all, depending on your strategy and authority, of course. Then the Martian energy, the explosive, immature energy, is in the gate of modesty, the gate of extremes. In the fifth line, sensitivity, the ability to sense when otherwise balanced behavior must be adjusted to meet the requirements of changing environment. The power to grow, the capacity of the self to grow through experiencing the extremes. The tendency to overcompensate, that's the other side. The drive of the self to overcompensate and disturb the flow. So taking extremes and being explosive about it and immature about it. on one side, this can nourish your growth, or the tendency to overcompensate. So then we have the Jupiter law and protection in the 51st gate, the arousing, the gate of shock, in fourth line limitation, and actually actually it was yeah, okay, so it's the gate of shock. It was also by Mercury, was the past days also there. Yeah, excuse me, I wanted to see something. So those opinions and corrections can be quite shocking. And it's in the fourth line limitation, a pure inventiveness and sometimes genius to find some opportunity even in the midst of the most devastating shocks. The warrior ego that will find some way to answer the challenge. And the other side, a reasoned make-do mentality that is infectual in times of severe shock. The superficial ego that lacks the resources and depth to answer challenges, but still wants to compete. So the law was to be competitive and shocking, and which could be limiting, and depending on the opportunities, whether they arose or not. The past week, it was in the fourth line, so it's all about the opportunities which comes from your network, friends, and family. Would give you the opportunity to have either pure inventiveness or mental make-do in how to deal with shocking circumstances. So opinions could be and corrections that could be shocking in a greedy and risk-taking environment where growth can be stimulated, and influence can derive out of the fixedness of your shocking limitations arising as law. Then the 55th gate, Saturn disciplines us and limits us in the gate of abundance, the gate of spirit, in the third line, innocence. Here's I was only following orders is a genuine defense. When the form is correct and attempts at actualization have been disciplined and with guidelines, failure cannot be personally attributed. The emotional possibility to recognize that despite one's best efforts, failure is possible and does not need to affect the spirit. So here I was only following orders can be a very good trial and error excuse to be limited here in the emotional possibility to recognize that failure is possible and that does not need to affect your spirit. So, and we can be limited in that by Saturn. So if you're not following your strategy and authority, Saturn will limit you, will put you back on track, and will get you to question your spirit. And here we're talking about the pessimism of the third line, with the martyr and the feeling that the best cannot be in a way achieved, the anarchist, but at the same time we see that there is the emotional possibility to recognize that despite the best efforts, failure is possible, and it doesn't need to affect your spirit, actually. Only if you are correct, because then your spirit will not be affected. You will get into the correct experiences with the correct people, in the correct timing and environment, etc. Then still, of course, for the next 2 years until 2025, we have Pluto in the 36th gate, the darkening of light, the gate of crisis. So the crisis, we're going to find out after 2 years what they have been cooking, but it is in the fourth line, espionage. Espionage. So I really wonder what what secret alliances and new network possibilities are happening and what networks are being built, because we have here the ability to prepare for and anticipate decline through the accumulation of secret or privileged information, and the realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary if one is to be prepared for crisis and change. And the other side, the tendency in recognizing the strengths of the opposition to accept the inevitability of decline, and rather than resist, to offer one's services to guarantee survival. The double agent, crisis, knowledge that it's available to others for a price. Name the price and you will get the information. And the information can be very valuable. Only in human design, information is not strength, because no matter how well you know the transit field and what influences you in your openness and in totally the environment around you and people around you, still, if you don't follow your strategy and if you don't use your authority to take the right decisions for yourself, crisis will be inevitable and there will be darkening of the light. The 60th gate, Pluto activates it. Also, it will be active for the next 2 years. The truth, transformation, and psychology, which will bring us something new. It's right now in the fourth line, the gate of acceptance, resourcefulness, the fourth line. The reason and intelligent maximization of potential within limitations, the maximization of potential within limitations. So people can be quite creative and fixed in that creativeness, actually, in finding ways around limitations. Or the other side, a tendency in times of limitation to seek the inner meaning of the restriction rather than using its gift to find a harmonic application within the limitation and getting stagnated. The former leads to withdrawal and the latter to transcendence. The energy to know rather than accept limitation at the expense of possible mutation, leading to depression. So there can be a lot of depressing mood in the air, especially if you are ready to change and there is no change happening. Well, first you have to accept the limitation, and by accepting it and working within the limits, you might find new ways around it, how to transcend them, how to deal with what you have, where you are at the moment you are, at the times you are. And you see, there is this craziness in the world right now, and it's quite unstable. Well, there are good news. There is stability inside of you, and you're born with it. And this is your inner authority. Even if you're an outer authority person, which means you don't have an inner authority and you're a mental projector or reflector, still you have your strategy, which is your anchor in those turbulent times. This was the transit field, and this is what has been influencing us the past week and specifically today. It's interesting to look back on the transits and see what was moving the entire world for the past week. I would be glad if it was useful to you. So like and comment if you want. Do you want to comment? Do you want to like it? My video, so you give me sign to keep on making more and that it was useful to you. This was Veronica with Human Design Journey. Like and subscribe if you want to know more about the transit or human design. You can also visit my website with the same name or my Facebook page, Human Design Journey. Thank you for the attention and talk to you soon. Bye for now.